On a cold, ordinary morning in Paris, the souls of history were shattered in less than 8 minutes. It happened on October 19th, 2025. The Louvre, the world's largest museum. 9 pieces of the legendary crown jewels of France stolen in daylight. Not at midnight, not in the shadows, but right when thousands of visitors wandered under the painted ceilings of the Gallery of Apollo. And almost nobody, until now, knows what really unfolded during those 7 minutes that changed the fate of the Louvre forever. Did you know that a single well-placed elevator, a machine built for moving sofas, refrigerators, boxes, became the key to the largest art heist in Paris in decades? The thieves arrived dressed as ordinary workers, no ski masks, no trench coats, no guns, high-visibility vests and helmets, clipboard under one arm, toolbox in hand, just like any maintenance team. Just another group lost in the morning shuffle of the city. The museum had just opened its doors. The time was 9 a.m., bright, crisp autumn sunlight reflected through the glass pyramid. The Gallery of Apollo, home to 2 carefully fortified vitrines, shielded the crown jewels of France, treasures amassed through centuries of monarchy and revolution. For over 20 years, since the last major theft in 1998, the Louvre had been untouched by organized criminals, surrounded by tourists, watched by silent cameras, whispered about by art lovers and critics. But on that day, everything changed. At precisely 9:30 a.m., the disguise team parked a battered moving truck near an inconspicuous side entrance. No alarm sounded, no one batted an eye. They wheeled out an aging elevator, the kind used for shifting crates. With stunned efficiency, the platform extended to an upper window of the Gallery of Apollo. Museum security was focused elsewhere. Main entrances, exhibition halls, routine check-ins. But this spot, this specific stretch of the perimeter, was quietly vulnerable. Records later showed only a single surveillance camera, mounted crookedly, pointed away from the danger. Inside the gallery, cameras were everywhere. Alarms wired to vitrines, lasers guarding the radiant glow of royal jewels. But the outer shell, fragile, decades of budget cuts, restoration projects, repeated warnings from staff, all ignored. As the elevator clattered into position, 4 men emerged from the truck, tools gleaming. They worked with surgical speed, not a wasted movement. One cut into the window with a handheld diamond saw. Sparks flashed. The sound was drowned by distant conversations below. They were inside. The air, once heavy with the scent of ancient varnish and polish, now crackled with tension. The thieves moved straight to their targets. 2 display cases, each custom-built, each containing some of the Louvre's most precious artifacts. Items that once crowned emperors, that survived revolutions, invasions, fire, water, history itself. And now, in front of dozens of strangers, uncertainty reigned. The robbers each pulled circular cutters from their bags. The wine cut through the echoing gallery. Those close by glanced up, confused. Maybe just a repair? Momentary alarm flickered in a guard's eye. By the time he reached the far end of the gallery, it was too late. The crooks brandished the spinning blades, gesturing for him and his colleagues to step back. No guns, no bullets, just the snarling teeth of machines, louder than any threat. The guards did not resist. They remembered their protocol. Protect the visitors. Hit the panic buttons. Wait. Alarms howled. Visitors in nearby rooms froze. Minutes stretched, elastic, uncertain. But the thieves were methodical. In less than 90 seconds, they breached the first case. Shards of safety glass skittered across the marble floor. Gloved hands swept up ornately wrought crowns, scepters, and bejeweled necklaces. Objects whose value transcends currency, whose allure is almost mythic. The band split into 2 pairs, working on the second vitrine as the others covered the exits. In 7 minutes, they had the fortune in their hands. Downstairs, museum staff began activating emergency procedures. The labyrinthine passages of the Louvre, designed for art, not pursuit, slowed the response. The thieves raced back, carrying backpacks stuffed with fragments of history. Along the way, they threatened a guard who tried to block their path, waving the cutter in a silent warning. No blood was spilled, but the message was unmistakable. Stand aside or risk violence. In a last desperate act, one of the robbers tried to ignite the lift's basket, aiming to delay pursuit. Flames flickered and died out. A single quick-witted employee throttled the blaze before it grew, preserving crucial clues. By 9:37 a.m., the band of thieves regrouped outside, hopping onto waiting scooters. Gone, fading echoes swallowed by the Parisian morning. Within minutes, the Louvre was in turmoil. The historic glass pyramid, a beacon of art and culture, now surrounded by flashing police lights and confused visitors being herded out through narrow corridors. That day, the museum shut its doors. Whispers spread. Was this another Mona Lisa incident? Was the Republic's past vanishing before their eyes? The world stared at live broadcasts as helicopters circled the Seine, the heart of France, wounded. Investigators quickly realized the magnitude of the disaster. The missing pieces, 8 to 9 in total, were swirling cauldrons of national identity, not just jewelry but icons. Coronets worn by kings and queens, badges of office, relics that had somehow survived the gauntlet of modern Europe, their collective value, over 88 million euros, but their true price, unmeasurable. Police scoured the museum, every fingerprint, every boot mark, every slip of plastic. The criminals had left precious little behind, but one advantage. In the chaos of their escape, stray hairs and droplets of sweat had fallen onto the shattered glass. French forensic teams worked through the afternoon, racing against time. Already the echoes of sirens could be heard beyond the museum's walls. Every entrance, every airport, every train station, sealed. The thieves' plan had been audacious on every level. They had not chosen the middle of the night, but the chaos of opening hours. They knew the routines, the changing of the guard, the areas least observed by security staff. It became clear that the team was composed not of desperate amateurs, but of professionals, seasoned criminals trained in logistics, surveillance, and sabotage. Rumors surfaced in the French press, ties to Eastern European crime syndicates, or an inside job coordinated with disgruntled staff. There were no easy answers. In the following days, a public reckoning exploded. Laurence Descartes, director of the Louvre, stood grim in front of a wall of microphones. "This is not just a crime," she said. "It is an attack on French memory." President Emmanuel Macron made a solemn visit, flanked by a cordon of police and TV crews, declaring the theft an outrage against history itself. Parliament demanded answers. How could the most guarded museum in Europe, the pride of a nation, have been breached with such ease? The reality, uncovered piece by piece, was damning. Internal reports revealed years of cuts to security budgets, funds diverted to glamorous events, and public relations instead of silent, watchful upgrades. Staff had raised alarms, warning of vulnerabilities in the building's oldest wings. The Gallery of Apollo, for all its beauty, suffered from blind spots and aged surveillance. Only one camera surveyed the thieves' point of entry, and it was aimed several degrees to the wrong angle. The band did not even need to scramble the feed. They simply walked out of the camera's sight. For days, the city seethed. International news relayed images of frantic police, blue tape cordoning off marble halls, the eyes of the world scrutinizing every misstep. The police investigation became a race against time. Officers pored over street cameras, gas station receipts, toll booth footage, DNA samples cross-checked against criminal databases. On October 20th, less than 24 hours after the crime, the first 2 suspects were picked up at Charles de Gaulle Airport, moments before their flight to Istanbul. Days later, more arrests followed, 6, then 8 people. The organization behind the heist proved slippery. Was this really the work of high-level professionals? Some arrestees had minor criminal records, others no history at all. Despite the arrests, the jewels remained missing. Leads pointed to high-speed getaways onto the A6 motorway, motorcycles weaving through morning traffic towards safe houses outside Paris. Some argued the gang had buyers waiting in Northern Europe, ready with clandestine routes through the shadow markets of art and antiquities. Others whispered that the pieces would be quickly broken up, stones sold individually, gold melted down, their history effectively erased for profit. But the most haunting theory lingered. What if the robbery was orchestrated with the unwitting help of the very people hired to protect the artworks? Reports emerged of irregular shift changes, suspicious gaps in patrol logs, staff fatigue, temporary contractors, and a revolving door in museum security had created fatal weaknesses. Some insiders claimed the thieves' timing was too perfect, almost as if they had been tipped off by someone from within. The aftermath inside the Louvre was swift and severe. The museum closed for days, then weeks, while a sweeping audit of safety protocols gutted management. New technology orders rushed through government channels, advanced motion detectors, thermal cameras, remote access lockdowns, uniformed police, rifles slung over shoulders, patrolled the galleries for the first time in decades. The world's most famous museum had been transformed into a fortress, its welcoming aura replaced by suspicion and hard lines of authority. But there were consequences beyond physical security. The French public reeled. On talk shows and in cafes, citizens debated. How open should national treasures remain to the world? Is it worth risking the irreplaceable just to maintain accessibility and atmosphere? Some called for the crown jewels to be locked away, never shown again. Others insisted that free public access was what gave them meaning, that to hide them would be to give the criminals even more power. Overnight, pressure mounted on museums worldwide. French officials warned their counterparts in London, Madrid, Berlin, and Rome. Security flaws were reviewed, floors reinforced, eyes opened wider than ever before. But the debate persisted. How can priceless objects, artifacts that shape collective memory, be protected in an age of rising budgets, shrinking resources, and criminals who seem always a step ahead? As investigators swept further into the criminal underworld, small pieces of the truth began to emerge. Some jewels had been seen, very briefly, in Brussels. Others, rumor said, had crossed into the Balkans via freight trucks disguised among scrap metal. Yet no concrete traces appeared. Not a single piece was recovered in the first year. The heist was so cleanly executed, so ruthlessly efficient, that even now, teams of international officers continue to probe the dark web, clandestine auctions, and private collections, following threads that always seem to unravel at the last minute. But the psychological aftershocks ran even deeper. Museum workers spoke of guilt, that somehow, by missing small details, they had been complicit in history's erasure. Others expressed pride that despite chaos and confusion, there had been no bloodshed, no tourists hurt. The robbers had left the past in tatters, but human life remained intact. Laurence Descartes led a sweeping reform from within, dozens of new protocols, the hiring of cyber defense experts, installation of redundant power strips for alarms, fixing blind cameras, lighting forgotten corridors. But one truth gnawed at every curator. The Louvre could never again claim to be invulnerable. The facade of perfection was broken. If you look closely at photographs from that day, you see something more. In the distant faces, in the reflexive flinch of a guard, in the nervous stride of a visitor who suddenly became a witness, not fear exactly, but the chill realization that everything you cherish can vanish without warning, that the past itself is never entirely safe. And still the jewels remain lost. Their fate, whether locked in a vault or scattered in pieces, is unknown. Somewhere, the men behind the robbery move through shadows, maybe in back rooms or distant lands, forever marked by the audacity of what they stole. Not just gold and gems, but a fragment of memory, a relic of France gone quiet in the dark. In the end, what does it mean for a nation to lose its treasures? The Louvre, its glass pyramid reflecting a wounded sky, now serves as a reminder. Every precaution, every innovation, every ounce of vigilance can be undone in a tangle of human error and blind trust. The line between guardianship and exposure is as thin as an old window pane, as fragile as history itself. Will the jewels ever be found, or will their absence haunt the silent halls of Apollo, an empty vitrine telling a story of 7 minutes that shook the world? Only time will tell. If you want to uncover more hidden stories and unsolved mysteries from the shadows of history and human ambition, follow the channel. Some secrets demand to be told, others perhaps are better left in the dark.